So, what's new in this episode? Well, let's take a look. We've got the orbiter main part done. Like I said, we got decals done last time, but I've got the pods done now. Got little decals around the ends and the front of that. Got the nozzles done. This Challenger flight had a black square here. I just used some scrap from the cutting edge decals for that. I'm not sure if it was actually black tile or something else. But the pods are on and done. I got some flat coat on the whole thing. So the main spacecraft finish is pretty much done. I'll glue the engine nozzles on later. Pretty straightforward there. Rather fussy, but straightforward. So now we're working on the payload. You can see I got the payload bay liner installed. I just glued it in. Just glue it with some foil adhesive because it's nice and sticky and it doesn't bleed through. So then now I'm working on a payload. I did some experiments. Again, it's just printed on cardstock with little tiny strips of styrene painted. Here we go, painted with some yellow paint and cut into tiny pieces and just tapped on with some acrylic glue and the plastic parts with some liquid cement. So that was just a test there. That looks pretty good. I'm going to make sure the acrylic glue didn't show very much, and it looks pretty good. So I'll be working on handrails. Meanwhile, I showed a prototype of the payload bay. Here's a little bit different one. I sized it. I made it a little smaller because the kit's a little undersized. So sit in the back here. So that fits in there a little nicer now. I've got all the alignments down. Can you see that? Yeah, pretty much. That's just foam board. This will get covered with foil and then painted white. This piece is where it sits on the satellite's going to sit, and it pivots back here. There's this assembly, and I'll show you in a couple of drawings here in a second, but this is a piece of plastic I just cut out of a thick piece of styrene. There's a bridge fitting here that fits over the front, and that goes in here. And what's interesting, it can be put at various heights. And I have some reference drawings I had from my days at McDonnell Douglas in St. Louis, where we built one of the modules of Solar Max. So I had access to a lot of interesting drawings. And so let's take a look at those now. So here's one of the drawings, and you notice the caption says operational configuration for Solar Max. Notice how high the aft element is with those extensions on the top. And also notice where that latch beam is in the front element that bridges across the gap between the two side pieces. Look at those very carefully. Now look at this view. On the left is the first element, and that bridge latch is in the same place as the other illustration. But now look, the element on the right does not have the extensions on the top, and you can see where that pivot is for the place where the satellite sits is actually much lower. So let's look at some actual photos from the mission and see what it looks like. So here's a picture prior to the repair mission, from what I can gather. Notice how the flight support system is holding the satellite, and it's well below those extensions in the forward element of the flight support system. And then look, where's that bridge going across? You don't see it at all, and that's because it's way at the bottom. So here I've added some arrows. The one at the top shows you can just see the back corner of the furthest element of the flight support system, and you see how it's actually lower. And that's where the pivot support is for the satellite. And at the bottom of the picture, you can just barely see the latch fitting for when it's tilted downward. There's a latch there it goes on. And that's on top of that bridge fitting. So it's way at the bottom. Now, a picture that I found really helpful is this one. It shows an underwater training scenario with a mock-up of the flight support system. And you can see where that pivot point is. It's on a lower bridge, and now you can clearly see that bridge fitting. It's way towards the bottom, and in front of it is some structure that holds the replacement modules. And this is all very helpful for building the model of this area. You can see how low that bridge is. And so I've looked at these photos and the drawings and come up with some set of drawings that I use to actually build the model. So after sorting all that out and looking at a lot of photos, I came up with the right alignment for this. And then I made my graphics program drawings for templates to cut out, the piece for this and where to put this bridge fitting and where to put the replacement modules that went on the bottom of that flight support system. So I'm partway through that, and we'll be getting close towards wrapping up the payload section and put some foil on it. And then I got to decide. I think what I'm going to do is I got to check the actual, how the mission went. But I think I'm going to have the Solar Max on the robot arm. That'll be pretty cool. But now I think what I realize I have to do too is I have to build tiny little manned maneuvering units. And I've done that many years ago in 72nd scale. I scratch built one. But now I have to scratch build two in this tiny scale. And frankly, not looking forward to that. This is getting really tedious. There's a lot of scratch building involved here. But it'll look interesting when it's done. So stay tuned for more progress in a few days. Thanks for watching and have fun modeling.